So today's article is an article that was shared at tocculture.com and the weekly newsletter. To get these articles, be sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter at tocculture.com. No more bad practices, establishing excellence with the quick set. How to never have a bad practice, the quick set. So every coach, you've experienced those practices where within just a few minutes, you realize it's going to be a rough day, right? No matter how much you encourage, urge, or even beg your team, their effort, their focus, or their attitude is probably going to remain poor. And by the end of the practice, you're left questioning whether anyone improved at all. Like you feel like you've wasted the last hour or two of your life. And in these moments, it's easy to blame the players. But remember this: you get what you tolerate, what you permit, you promote. And if you see something below standard and do nothing, then you've set a new standard. See, in those first few minutes of practice, you, the coach, you set the standard, not the athletes. So how do you establish the right standard in the first 5 minutes of practice? I call it the quick set. The quick set is done before practices and games. And while it ideally takes around 5 minutes, it can take longer when behaviors do not meet the standard you want for the practice. I've implemented the quick set with basketball teams, volleyball teams, ice hockey teams, soccer teams, field hockey teams, and even Gaelic football teams. And I'm going to give you today a step-by-step guide to implementing a quick set with your team, along with two examples from one from a college basketball team and the other from a youth Gaelic football team that I coach. Step number one, select 3 to 5 simple drills for the quick second. So for the college basketball team, each drill lasted 60 seconds. They did a 4-corner passing drill, a 2-line finishing drill, a 3-man full court layup drill, 2v1 pitch or finish, and they did 0 shooting with a partner. On the under 9 Gaelic football team, they did 3 drills, 8-line sprint hand pass. And they did with their right hand 30 seconds, left hand 30 seconds, and then 8-line kick pass, right foot 30 seconds, left foot 30 seconds, and then popcorn passing 60 seconds. So those drills might not mean anything to you, but I'm just sharing those to give you, an example of how simple they are. Step 2 is to teach the drills and transitions. Now, teach your team the drills and how to transition effectively between them. This is really important. You want to practice this regularly, as it may take a few sessions to have the players know the drill, right? Before your team is ready for you to start introducing resets, because resets are around behaviors. And right off the bat, you introduce a new drill, they're going to be trying to learn the drill, and they're not going to have the energy or capacity, bandwidth to focus on the behaviors yet. When they've learned it, now you go to step 3, which is to define excellence. So ask your team, what would excellence look like in this drill? Coach them to give specific behaviors. So from their suggestions, you're going to choose 1 to 3 key behaviors that are most important for raising the team standard. For example, the college basketball team, they had these 3 behavioral standards. They probably used 2 for each drill. They weren't all 3 for every drill, but when they went through those drills, they knew which the standards were for each drill. These standards were to call out names when passing the ball, to land on 2 feet in the paint when they went to go make a pass or finish like a layup. And the third one was to encourage teammates with high fives as you return to the line. So obviously that second one, landing on 2 feet, didn't apply to all the drills. The under 9s Gaelic football team were emphasizing calling out names when passing the ball, sprinting to receive the ball, and sometimes we add in the standard around pass with a zip, no lobbing. It's really important. Less is more, 1 or 2 standards, but also do not set outcome standards such as making every shot or avoiding dropped passes, right? That's not focusing on the behaviors, that's focusing on outcomes. This is all about behaviors. Step 4, you set a time or rep expectation. So you might ask, hey, you ask the team, how many minutes can every one of you be excellent? And they will suggest a wide range of things. I've heard anything from 2 minutes they could maintain excellence to I've heard even 60 minutes. All you need to do is say, I'm asking for just 1 minute of excellence in this drill. Now you can adjust that 1 minute. It doesn't need to be 1 minute. It could be 30 seconds. It could be 90 seconds. Don't want anything over 90 seconds. 30 seconds is probably as low as you go. You could also set reps. You could say, hey, we're going to do 20 passes or 20 shots. Or you could set like individual reps or a cycle the drill. Like everyone goes through the drill once. So it's like one full rotation. You could do it that way as well too. Step number 5 is to explain the reset. Now you tell your team that the coaches are going to be watching to ensure that everyone meets the standard. And if one person drops below the standard by failing to call for the ball or not giving a high five or whatever those standards are, then the drill will reset to 0 seconds or 0 reps. Let the team know it is up to them to support each other. You're not going to stop the drill. You're just going to reset the timer, for instance. Okay, so the drill doesn't necessarily stop. In fact, you want them to keep going. You don't want to stop yet. Now, step 6 is to observe and reset. So you step back and observe. And the only thing coaches should call out is reset. It's on the players to encourage each other. It's on the players to ensure everyone stays at the standard. If you call a reset, they should know that someone isn't following through on the required behaviors. That's the only reason you would call reset. That leads us to step 7, which is going to happen to most of you, which is coaching through multiple resets. You'll likely get a reset within the first few seconds for some groups when you set high standards. And there will come a point where you get 3 resets in a row. Now, when you have 3 resets in a row, not a big issue. Calmly huddle the team together and ask, what's going on? Now, you're hoping that they recognize that the behavioral standards, they're not meeting those. And so then a good question to follow up is, okay, so what should you do when you see a teammate not meeting the standard? So if you saw them, teammates not calling for the ball, then what should you do? Well, the answer that they should provide is obvious. It's remind them. It's to call them up. It's to hold them accountable. So remind them in this moment that you're not going to move on to the next drill in your quick set until they've all met the standard. All right. Step 8 is to transition to the next drill. Right. So hopefully you put them in after those 3 resets and they raise the standard, they meet it. You move on to the next drill. Maybe you have to go again. Right. Sometimes it takes multiple times for them to really realize that you're not going to let these standards slide. But step 8 is to transition to the next drill. So once they've completed one drill, you move on to the next. Here's a tip. After a few practices where they consistently meet the standards quickly, now is the time to raise the standard again by setting expectations for quicker transitions, right? So this is really great because it gets players organizing each other and moving quickly and leading each other between drills. And this helps them to do that better later on in practice and other things. So if the team fails to transition quickly, they're walking to the lines, they're disorientated, one line has 20 people, and the other line has 2 people, like that type of stuff that drives us crazy, then reset them the previous drill and have them do that drill very briefly. It could be 10, 15 seconds. And then say, all right, let's go again. Let's reset, or transition to the next drill. So that's a great way to raise the standard. Step number 9, handle persistent failures. So if after a lengthy time, your team still fails to meet the acceptable standards, one of 2 things must happen. Either lower the standard or send them home. Now, while rare, I've done one drill for as long as 25 minutes. And I've supported coaches who've had similar experiences. This shouldn't happen all the time, but there is going to be this once a year, a few times a year. You're going to recognize that the team does not have it that day. And you'll just send everyone home. And they're going to be better off with rest. And you won't have wasted practice. And do it in a calm way. Just say, hey, does not look like you are ready to get the most out of today's practice. Looks like you'd be better off with the rest. I'll see you tomorrow. You lost the opportunity to get better. Now, step 10, the last step, is to continuously raise standards throughout the season. As the season progresses, you can tweak drills occasionally, but this is more about raising standards. Here are some ways to continuously raise standards. First, identify new behavioral standards. Like, hey, just ask your team. We've been doing really good the last, few practices with this drill. What can we do to raise the standard now in this drill? As I mentioned before, set standards for transitions and reset them to the previous drill if they fail to meet them. And lastly, a big one here is to challenge your leadership group to be the resetters, or just have them run the quick set without you even watching, but have them be the resetters. And you step back and let them hold each other accountable. Here's a few notes. Just one that's really important around games. As a coach, you might need to modify your drills to fit the space allotted to you, but I absolutely 100% cannot state this enough. You need to run this quick set in your pre-game, pre-match warm-up and run it as much like you would in practice. The team needs to complete their quick set before they can move on to their other warm-up drills. And so I love to have an assistant coach or even the head coach out there on the court holding the standard. I did this with one of my teams 10, 12 years ago, and it was incredible, right? What it did for us. We went from being the team I was embarrassed to look at. When it came to warm-ups, every time I'd be like, oh my gosh, we're going to get hammered. Our guys are so not ready. And then we became the team that actually was intimidating to play against because our players were so engaged, so communicating, the communication was so high and the energy was so high. So, all right, well, let's talk about why this is so powerful. All right. It's really powerful, number one, because you don't waste practices operating below the standard. You get the practice to the standard right off the bat. It mentally prepares your team to compete in practices and games. All right, this is as much as a mental routine as it is a physical routine. It also teaches them that practice is a privilege. It's an opportunity to get better. And if they aren't going to work hard, support their teammates, and stay focused, then they're going to lose that opportunity. It also teaches them how to hold each other accountable. This is huge. The resets force the players to hold each other accountable. And because players will tire of these drills, and so they'll start to challenge their teammates when they aren't meeting the standard so they can move on to the next part of practice, the next drill. Players will start to take pride in completing a quick set without a single reset. In fact, one way that I oftentimes would start the practice, I might say, hey, fellas or ladies, we need a great practice today. We got a big game tomorrow. We don't have time to waste resetting our quick set today. Let's get it right the first time. No resets. And everybody be like, yeah, we're all in. And then you just absolutely nail it, right? So it's a great way to get them to start to take pride in those behaviors. Lastly, players will start to believe in the importance of the routine. They'll reset the drill when it's not going right, and they'll start fixing it themselves. And it's going to allow you to step back and let them figure it out on their own. This is like absolutely the promised land. This is like the place you want to go. And it's absolutely incredibly beautiful. This is when the culture is now player-led. And you have trained the skills and these abilities to be able to become a player-like culture. So can't recommend that enough. Thanks for listening to the Culture Builders podcast. Be sure to subscribe and share.